Hello everyone, my name is Ravi Kumar, President at Infosys. Welcome to the new edition of Trailblazers. The Trailblazers talk, as some of you know, is about individuals who are making significant impact to the organizations they work in, the societies and the communities they live in, and the industries they really represent. So today I have a distinguished guest, the Group CIO and the Chief Digital Officer of Exelon Corporation, Mike Koehler. Mike has been with Exelon for the last 3 years, since 2016, and he has done a diverse set of roles, before which he was at HP, a Senior Vice President running the North America markets. Prior to that, he worked for EMC as a President of Professional Services globally, and before that he actually had a stint in EDS and on a variety of roles, and was responsible for the global outsourcing market for EDS. Exelon, as some of you know, is a Fortune 100 company, $35 billion plus in revenues annually, and a leader in energy utilities. Thank you, Mike, for joining us today. Wonderful to have you in the Bangalore campus. Thanks for spending some time with us talking about the energy sector and what Exelon is doing. So Mike, let me tee up with my first question about the trends in the energy sector. My friends tell me that it's kind of 5 Ds, as they call it, in the energy space. The significant change which it is going through, deregulation in a big way, democratization because flexible contracts between consumers and generators, a lot of digital, so digitization. There is a fair bit of decentralization with the generators and the consumers coming closer, and finally decarbonization with the green energy. Tell us a little bit about the trends in the energy sector and what you feel this industry is going to.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi, for hosting me here. I'm thrilled to be here in Bangalore today. But to your question, it's an exciting time in the utilities, in the energy sector overall. From my chair, I couldn't be in a better spot, right? As you talk about the 5 Ds, all of that has to come together, and the trends we're seeing is it's all about the digital fabric that sits underneath it. So whether it's distributed energy, the alignment of customers and producers, the connectivity between what a consumer is to the utility has never been, one case, more transformational than it is right now. But it also, when we start to think about these concepts of connected communities or smart cities, has everything to do with the integration of all of the facilities and all of the capabilities that you actually need in your city. So historically, we saw utilities really being a single transaction. I went to buy my energy, and I didn't think much about anything else other than the rate. In a lot of cases, that was this notion of, you didn't even call them a customer, you called them a rate payer, because they were captive. Whatever the rates became that you ended up paying, and your only choice was to use less energy. That market has materially moved on as you talk about whether it be distributed energy, this notion of microgrids, and the consumer, the flexibility of what the consumer has in the utilities segment has never been stronger. And especially when you start to then think about not just a single transaction with your utility provider, but how all of your city services come into play. That's really where we're seeing the market, and where we're building platforms and capability to really begin to play in that in a much different way than just being a single utility and a single transaction with a customer.
Thank you, Mike. Just to tee up on the microgrids you spoke about, there's so much talk on the smart grids per se. What does that do to the industry and the consumer?
Yeah, I think it does a couple of things, because for a while there was this view of smart grids or microgrids that end users were going to be really a part of, and I think the market's starting to really move to, like anything, the hype of what it could be with a single consumer is changing, and so you're starting to really see community grids being the way that we think that's going to come to market. So whether it be small solar farms for a community or wind farms, renewables really at the community level is where we're starting to see that, and it'll be a part of the ecosystem. As the technology changes, whether it's in wind or solar, it's a part of actually the generation. It's not the whole answer, but it's a huge answer, especially when you start to think about decarbonization and getting to the green energy. That has to be a part of the future. And so for us, we're also a very big producer. We're the largest nuclear producer in the US. That is good for base load, but where people want and need to go is, getting away from coal and getting away from some of the historical energy production methods and getting much more to microgrid and community solar and community wind.
And Mike, I keep hearing about the role of the consumer moving from a consumer to a producer in many ways. And I hear the term called the prosumer in the utility space. How much do you think this is going to be mainstream over a period of time? A consumer really moving to a producer of energy and having a flexible contract with a supplier. Is that real now, or you think it's going to take a couple of years to get there?
I think it's going to take a couple of years to get there. I think people, there's lots of people that have passion about being this producer of energy, and so whether they put solar rooftop on or they do something at their house to be more of a producer of that. I think the other technologies that have got to come along is really storage. Because I think, the way, when you think about the way solar is produced, just use that as an example, it's only during sunlight hours. And the reality of it is on any given day that you either can be a producer of that and it actually can be used on the grid. In a lot of cases, sometimes you actually can't put it back on the grid. And so this notion of storage has to be a key element for that to allow people to actually solar and generate power, store it, and then use it at some later date in either a peak time or when it's not sunny outside. So I think that's part of the equation, but we're really starting to see, again, this trend back to community solar and community wind, where people will put their money and apply it into these community, but the notion of how that's connected together in a community aspect is really where we probably see the major trend coming.
Mike, that was fascinating. The role of digital technologies in industries, a lot is talked about in financial services, in retail, consumer goods, not as much in energy utilities.
Yep.
So do you think the embrace of digital is slow, or is it not known to other industries? Or what's your view on what's the role is, and what is Exelon doing in this area?
So one, I think it's been slow to come to the energy market for a whole host of reasons, but
is it regulation or?
It's regulation. It's this traditional, again, when you only thought about the transaction between the customer and the provider being just purely your rate base and a bill. There wasn't a lot of need for innovation in that. There wasn't a lot of need in the consumer's mind. They just thought about their electric company and they thought about, I get a bill for the amount of energy I use. The customer's now moving away from that, and so when you think about digitization, customers have, the expectation on their mobile phone of what was the best website and the best engagement they had with a consumer company. They think about that and they have those expectations.
They have similar expectations like any other
Absolutely.
consumer
They don't
service.
think about, let me go backwards and go back to old technology or maybe no technology at my utility. They have the same exact expectation if they were shopping on Amazon and then they flip around and want to do something to change their bill or modify their services. They expect that same level of capability, and that's part of what's really changed, and has changed a lot of the energy and utility segment to really have to go think much more about a consumer. Back to the deregulation side of it. As customers make choices, right? We all make choices on, our shopping experiences we like and our shopping experiences we don't like. We're going to have that same context in the energy and utility sector.
And which part of that value chain you think digital will have a bigger embrace?
For the consumer and the customer, I think it's all around analytics. So this being able to be more predictive around how customers are using energy, what they can choose to do to change the amount of energy they're using is all harnessed and embodied in analytics. And that's
what about customer care? You think?
Yeah, customer care was kind of coming out of the next one, because historically we have the massive call centers, and you'd have to pick up a phone and want to talk to a customer call center agent to actually get anything done. And so that's been another major trend, is the channels, whether it be chat, the channels, whether it be the mobile, are exponentially growing. And you're starting to see our call volumes come down of the traditional. Now, age plays a factor too. So our consumers that are up in age you kind of go to what you always have gone to, and that's the phone. But when you start to see the next generation kids coming out of school and actually, getting their own service and getting their own home, they don't ever think about a call center. So the notion of taking that whole customer care ribbon and digitizing that in a way that is frictionless for the consumer, but also touchless as it relates to agents is something we're driving pretty hard.
I had one last question to you, kind of related to digital. In many ways, scaling the digital agenda for energy utility firms is also going to be dependent on how well you could repurpose your human capital.
Yeah.
And human capital, in many ways, in the utilities industry, has not got an embrace of digital tech capabilities and technologies. How is that going to really come on the way for embracing digital technologies? And what do you think the industry is doing in this space?
Yeah, it's a great question, because so we think about it in workforce transformation. The jobs that are here today, however you see the digital roadmap playing out, will not be the jobs that'll be the ones in the future. And so being able to, one, articulate that for our employee base of where do we see a 5-year journey going, and more importantly, what roles do we see that are in our future. The one thing, and that's always scary for folks, because they think, I've done this job all my career, what does it mean my job's not going to be here? Does that mean I'm leaving? And the answer, to simply put, is no. But what we can't tell is, what is that new job? I mean, I was using an example the other day. 5 years ago, first of all, nobody knew what Angry Birds was, but you never knew that there needed to be an engineer for Angry Birds. Well, that same concept is here, that says we're not sure we can articulate all the roles of the future. We just know they're going to morph and transform as we morph and transform the technology base of the energy and utility segment.
And do you think repurposing that human capital is going to be harder because a lot of the workforce is very traditional and a lot of them are skill-based?
Yeah.
Versus hiring in the utility sector, which has happened on higher education.
Right.
Do you think that's going to be much harder to do it?
Well, I mean, we've got an interesting dynamic too. We've got a aging workforce, and so we've got a lot of folks that are come on that next chapter in life for them of retirement. So we're seeing it's a scary thing, because we're seeing a lot of folks that are of retirement age. But at the same time, that it has a natural place for, as those skill-based workers retire themselves out, the types of skills that we start to hire to bring in to feed that will be much, much different. And we think it's much more around the knowledge worker. I mean, words we've used in the industry for a while, but more about the knowledge worker, more about not a generalist per se, but somebody that's very tech savvy, that aligns to understanding the business in a very deep way, but also has elements of a technologist embedded in them.
And it would help attracting a lot of talent as well, because traditionally this industry has not attracted it didn't have the cool quotient,
that's
if
right.
I may.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing right. it will.
Yeah, and that's a big change too, right? So when we go out and market and recruit, it's a very tough market, just period. But the heritage and history, people don't wake up and say, yay, I want to go to an innovation, let me go to an energy and utility company. So for us, it's really branding, what are we doing with technology has got to be in the front of every conversation, because people's heritage mind thinks there's nothing exciting there. That's a sleepy, and it couldn't be anything further from the truth from all the things we talked about of the transformation of the industry. But that element of technology is something we've spent a lot of time speaking about within the technology world. But when you talk to our business leaders, it's as much about how they recruit people and how they have got to talk about technology and where the industry's going and where we're going as a company is part of changing that dynamic of the skills that we have in the company.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks so much for talking to us. It was wonderful talking to you, and I know this is an exciting time for your industry, and look forward to more conversations. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.